Hey everybody, what's up? Let me get my stuff situated here. So today, in our live today, I'm not going to talk super long. It's not going to be 30, 45 minutes like some other ones. But I just want to address a question. I've been thinking about this week, and I've heard it being brought up multiple times. And it's simply, how do I avoid getting bored with food, right? And so this is something that, especially when people go on diets, or when people eat something similar, or you're eating on a budget, or you're doing something similar, right? Eating something similar for multiple days in a row, people, they get bored with it, right? And so I wanted to kind of address a different aspect of this and look at how you can still consistently eat simple, similar things and not get bored. And so, and it doesn't have to do with, getting crazy creative and trying to make all kinds of different recipes, and none of that. It actually has nothing to do with the food whatsoever. So that's what I'm going to talk about. If you guys have any questions, let me know. But that's what we'll do today. So getting bored. Here's the deal. Here's the interesting thing about food, and something that we have to look at. There's a big difference between how the food actually tastes, okay? The tastes, the sweet, salty, sour, bitter, pungent, astringent, the taste actually associated with the food that you're eating, and what you think about it. Those are two totally different things, okay? Or how pleasurable it is to eat the food, right? Or how good or bad you can say the food is. That the actual taste associated with the food, the specific food, and your perception of it, right? Your perception of it, how good or bad it tastes, how pleasant or unpleasant it tastes, whatever, how bland it tastes, any of that stuff. Those are two totally different things, and that's where we have to address them. Because essentially, when we talk about getting bored with food, right? If you're going to eat oatmeal every day, right? Every day for breakfast, you're going to eat the same oatmeal. Boom, boom, boom. You're going to eat it for 6 months or whatever it is. And people can say, and a lot of people say this, that, I'm getting bored of it. I'm getting bored of it. I want something different. I'm getting bored of it. The boring part doesn't happen within the food. Okay? The food, the essential aspect of the food, the tastes of the food, the sweet, salty, sour, bitter, pungent, astringent. There's no boring in there. There's no boring taste. Boring is not a taste. Okay, boring is how you're perceiving it, right? And to understand this a little bit better, you have to understand what's affecting your perceptions. Okay? What's affecting your perceptions? Because I talked about this last time. We can talk about, when we get in this habit of saying this tastes good or this tastes bad, right? Well, you can take the same dish. You can take the exact same dish of food, right? And two people are eating off of the same dish. One person can say it tastes good. One person can say it tastes bad. Same exact food, same exact plate, same exact everything. Two different people are saying it tastes differently. Now, the taste of the food, the essential taste of the food is not different. It's the same food. It's the exact same thing. It's not one bite is good and then another bite is bad. It's not how that works, right? So the perception of the taste, or what you're calling good or bad within the taste, that's happening within you. It's happening within you, right? And there's a lot of things that affect that. There's a lot of things, and we'll talk about, good and bad. There's a lot of things that affect whether or not you think something tastes good or bad. There's a lot of things that can affect your perception of that taste, right? So here's a clear example. Let's say they say you don't like broccoli. Say you don't like broccoli, right? You don't like broccoli at all. You never have. You can't even chew it up. You can't even stand the thought of broccoli. All of that stuff. You hate broccoli. It's no good. Whatever. Let's say you don't eat for 3 days. No food, only water, no food for 3 days. Okay. I guarantee you, after 3 days of no food, if somebody puts a plate of broccoli in front of you, that will be the best tasting food that you've ever had. Guarantee it. Guarantee it. Just going multiple days without food changes your perception of the food. Did the broccoli taste any different? No. The broccoli, the inherent taste in the broccoli, right? The qualities and the taste of the broccoli are not any different. It's still broccoli. But your perception of that changes greatly depending on a lot of things. One, if you don't eat for 2 or 3 days in a row, you're going to think that tastes wonderful. Similarly, if you take something, let's say you have a favorite dessert, let's say cupcakes. You love cupcakes, right? But then you had to eat cupcakes every single meal of every single day for 6 months in a row. All you could ever eat was cupcakes. After a while, the pleasantness or how good those cupcakes taste are going to change. Your perception of that is going to change. You might be disgusted of cupcakes after 3 weeks. Who knows, right? Another thing that can change your perception of taste is the actual your tongue and how damaged or how damaged your tongue is, right? In ways of like how much processed food did you eat? Do you smoke? Do you do all kinds of things that actually damage the taste buds on your tongue? And that can alter your perception of taste, right? Another thing that can alter your perception of taste is how dry your tongue is and how hydrated you are, right? So taste has a lot to do with hydration and liquid and water and being able to taste, right? And so if your tongue is very, very dry, then your perception of taste will be very different than if it is wet, right? Another thing, and this is the one that I really want to talk about today, but another thing that greatly influences your perception of taste are your memories and your past experiences with food. Okay, so your perception, there's reality, right? And then there's your perception of reality. And your perception are kind of like glasses, right? They're kind of like these glasses. And depending on your experiences of life, your past experiences, your attachments, your identifications, what you've gone through, your feelings, your emotions, all of these things, right? All of these things that have happened in your life. Those things are like filters, and they filter the reality. Okay? They filter it and they distort it before you actually kind of get a hold of it and you understand what's going on. Okay? So that has a huge impact on what you think tastes good or bad, right? Or in the same way, when you say getting bored of food, essentially that's what it means the same thing. If you're getting bored of food, you don't like the taste of it anymore. You don't like the taste, right? And so those things can affect that. Those things can greatly affect it. So getting bored of food has nothing to do with the food itself. Please understand this, right? It's not the food's fault that you're bored of it. It's not the food's fault, right? It's your perception of it. It's what's going on within you. And I want to talk about that and what that means. So, your perception of food has a lot to do, or what you think good or bad, right? In terms of food, what you think tastes good or bad, a lot of that has to do, the majority of it has to do with how you grew up eating and what you eat most often, okay? Because your brain, it's like, and I talked about this last time, right? So your body speaks in chemicals, okay? So, and when the body needs certain chemicals, like certain nutritional chemicals, right? It sends cravings to the brain, right? And then it has to tell the brain, okay, we need this stuff. Well, the brain knows that we don't just go out and eat chemicals. We eat food. So then the brain has like this file, this storage bank of all the stuff that you've ever eaten and how that experience was with you, right? How that experience, was it pleasant? Was it unpleasant? How that experience was. And it's got this file in there. And so when your body needs something, your brain looks through that file of previously eaten things. And that's how it decides what to eat, okay? And when it's deciding what to eat, it's not only deciding by the food that you've eaten, but it's deciding based on your experiences at some moment in time with that. This is why so many people, when they're adults, say they don't like broccoli because of an experience that they had when they were 8 years old, and they've never ever wanted to try it again, even though they've changed so much since then. They had this experience, and that experience is filed in your brain. And every time that that your body thinks of broccoli, you think of that experience, and that experience is distorting the reality of broccoli, or how broccoli actually tastes. Okay? So understanding that, getting bored of food has everything to do with your past experiences of food and nothing to do with the food itself. Okay? Ideally, or not even ideally, you should be able to, if you wanted to eat the exact same food every day, if there was the perfect balance, if you could find the perfect meal for you, right? The perfect breakfast, perfect dinner, whatever, you have this daily assortment of foods and you found it was the perfect one for your body. It gave you energy, you didn't get sick, everything was awesome, your weight was great, you felt great, it made you feel great, everything was just wonderful about this. Okay? And you had this, you had this list there and these things, and all you had to do was eat that every single day, and there would be no health problems. None. There would be no health problems in your body. Like, could you do that? Could you eat that same thing every single day knowing that it's perfect for your body and it will result in the perfect health of your body? Could you do that? A lot of people can't. Why? Because for a lot of people, food goes beyond the body for them. A lot of people, food goes beyond the body, right? Food becomes social, food becomes emotional, food becomes all kinds of different things, right? But that has nothing to do with the food itself. There's nothing to do with the food itself. You can be able to, okay, with some things, you can be able to completely enjoy 100%, have a pleasurable, wonderful experience with food, the same food, every single day. You can. Okay? This is why. If you had a pleasurable experience with food one day, right? If you loved it, you ate this dish and you absolutely loved it. Loved it. What's the difference between eating that the next day? Why wouldn't you love it again? It was the same thing. Day after that, why couldn't you eat it again? You had a wonderful experience with that. Same food, why couldn't you have that wonderful experience again? Okay? The reason is because we get hung up in our memory of things. Our memory is distorting and it's getting in the way of our present moment experience with things. This is the reason people get bored with food, because they're not experiencing the food that they are eating in that moment for what it is. They are thinking about what it tasted like back then. They are thinking what they might want it to taste like later on. They are thinking about, who they were with when they ate it back then. They're thinking all kinds of craziness. Okay? Or they're thinking that, if you have these feelings that food is more than the body and it's not a pleasant experience and all these other things, right? And you're not seeing food exactly as it is, then you start wishing for something else as opposed to experiencing what is at that moment. There's no reason at all, if you had a wonderful experience with oatmeal in the morning, why you couldn't have that every single day. Why? Because every single time you eat that, every single day that you eat that, it's a new moment. It's a brand new moment. You're different. Okay? It's a different time. It's a new moment. If you can experience that food wonderfully in that moment, you can experience that same food wonderfully in a different moment. That past moment has nothing to do with the present moment of your experience of food. Now it is right now, it's affecting you. The memory of it's affecting most people when we talk about getting bored of food, right? But it doesn't have to. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't have to. If you can be present in the moment, okay, if you can experience the food, and this is where the tastes come in. This is where instead of thinking about food as good or bad, we start thinking about it in terms of taste. Is it sweet, salty, sour, bitter, pungent, astringent? Is it heating? Is it cooling in your system? What is it feeling like, right? What are those objective things that it's like in your system? And if you can pay attention, if you can eat slowly and not have the TV on, not have your phone on, not doing whole kinds of crazy, and if you can pay attention to what's going on in your mouth and your experience of the food as you're eating it, each time you eat the food, it can be a wonderful experience and you'll never ever get bored of the food. Does this make sense? There's no way you should ever get bored of food. No way. If you can experience the food for what it is in that moment of eating and treat that moment of eating as a new moment of eating, because that's what it is. It's exactly what it is. It's not the past moment. You're not eating back then. It's a completely different moment, right? But if you can take your memory and set that aside, if you can take your memory and set that aside each time you eat, or do your best at least, do your best to take your memory and set that aside when you eat and just focus on the food. Just focus on it. Just focus on the tastes of the food. Sweet, salty, sour, bitter, pungent, astringent. How does it feel in your system? Does it make you feel warm? Does it make you feel cool? Is it cooling you down? Right? What are those sensations going on in your mouth and in your body? And if you can do that, you'll notice that each experience of food is unique and it's different. And if you can practice that, you'll never ever get bored of food. Never. Boredom happens in the mind. Boredom happens when the mind is doing its all whatever it does, right? Boredom happens when it's like, I've had this for a while. I want something new now. I just want something new. There's nothing wrong with what I have. I just want something new. I don't like this anymore. I want something new, right? That's in the mind. It has nothing to do with the interaction between the food and your body. That's why I can go back and say, if there was the perfect meal for you, right? If there was this perfect meal for you, and if you ate that every day, all of your health concerns went away. There was no health concerns. It was the perfect food for your body. Could you eat that every single day, the rest of your life, and be satisfied with it? And knowing that it's going to result in the perfect health for you. All you have to do is eat it. If you do that, then it becomes your choice to enjoy the food or not. Okay? When we say I like or I dislike, that's a choice. You can choose to whether or not that food tastes sweet, salty, sour, bitter, pungent, astringent, whatever it tastes like. You can choose to enjoy it for what it is, or you can choose to not enjoy it for what it is. That's up to you. That's your choice. You can choose to be bored of the food, or you can choose to experience the food in a new way every single time you eat it. That's up to you. It has nothing to do with the food. So, this is a short live today. I'm about done. I'm about wrapped up. Only 20 minutes. So that's the point. That's what I want to encourage you guys to do. Take each time that you eat something, like when you know something is consistent, and because a lot of times we eat the same thing multiple days in a row because it's consistent for us and it's easy, and we know what to shop for and we know what to plan for, and we don't have to think of a new recipe every time. We're going to eat oatmeal every single day for breakfast in the morning because we know what that is. We know how to make it. We know how long it takes. We know what it tastes like. We know that it's good for us. We know these things, whatever the food may be, right? We know that, and it's consistent and it's stable, and that's comforting and that's helpful in busy lives. And so it helps in a lot of those ways, but you can still, whether or not you eat oatmeal one time or you've eaten it 100 days in a row, you can still appreciate that oatmeal at that time in your life, at that moment, for what it tastes like. And if you can start to do that, you will never ever get bored of food. You'll actually enjoy the simplicity of food. It'll go the opposite. You'll stop seeking all kinds of crazy in the food world, right? You'll stop seeking I need all kinds of like new things and trying all this. Like, you'll stop seeking that, and you'll get very consistent with what you eat because you'll find what works best for your body. And you'll be able to enjoy that similar thing multiple times in a row. And then eating becomes simple. It becomes easy. It becomes consistent. Not very time consuming. You know exactly what's going on. The stress of having to kind of create all kinds of stuff goes away, right? Simple. So that's it. That's it for today. Yeah, you don't have to be bored of food. That's in your mind. Be present in the moment with your food, and you'll never, ever be bored. You can eat the same thing over and over and over again. It's wonderful. If you have any questions, let me know. If not, have a wonderful weekend, everybody.